So just to get a sense of the size of the current market on the LME in terms of number of lots traded, we're at the 155 million number of lots. Now these lots are quite large lots, so to equate that into dollar values, last year we traded about 11.6 trillion notional value. And how much is that in terms of tonnage of metals? Well, that equates to about 3.5 billion tons of metals. So yeah, that's mainly on the non-ferrous market. But today, of course, we're interested to see if this translates to the ferrous contracts. So the physical steel industry, from our estimates, is about 16 times the size of the non-ferrous metals industry. So those numbers that you just saw were from the non-ferrous industry, but our estimations is that the steel physical industry is about 16 times this size. So, despite this, the size of the steel industry is much larger than the non-ferrous industry. So just taking a look at some of the production numbers, non-ferrous steel production sits at about 120 million tons, whereas steel production sits around 1.888 billion tons, representing an industry and an opportunity potentially of 16 times bigger.
So carbon neutrality is an enormous topic with deep impact on most sectors in China, especially for steel sector and its upstream and downstream, since it's one of the largest carbon emitter. Here is our ongoing modeling of carbon neutral steel making. You can see there are many questions that is still unclear right now, but we have some grasps on the matter after the implementation of crude steel controls in the past few months. So let's recap on the background a little bit. China's carbon neutrality campaign originated back in 2016 with the Paris Agreement. From 2016, China has been pledged to reach carbon emission peak by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2060. We're talking about what steel making industry, steel mills, have been heavily targeted by policymakers because it's one of the largest carbon emitters in China. And large state-owned steel mills such as Baosteel has pledged to reach carbon emission peak and carbon neutrality earlier than state target. So for peak, it's 5 years earlier, and for neutrality, it's 10 years earlier.
Yeah, sure. So we did try to venture into physical delivered steel contracts 4 or 5 years ago as our first attempt to be involved with the steel industry. And that was absolutely right, the LME steel billet contract. Unfortunately, it was out of Turkish warehouses, and I think the main reason why it wasn't as picked up by the industry as it should have been was that the quality and grades would have been hard to manage. And as a ferrous contract, it's totally different to a non-ferrous, where it's a little bit easier to manage the quality and grades on a non-ferrous contract. So as a ferrous contract, you're exposed to many other things like rust, for example. So it was before my time, actually, at the LME. So as far as I understand, that was the issues and the reasons why it was tough to get something physical delivered, and hence we've pivoted to more a cash settled contract, which is kind of become a bit of an industry norm these days, where we partnered with price reporting agencies like Platts, Argus, to kind of work with the price reporting agencies to create these futures contracts on the back of them. I think there is a liquidity trade-off because we already have a scrap contract out of Turkey, and creating additional scrap contracts, there is an issue of fragmentation and of liquidity. So there is a little bit of a trade-off with liquidity fragmentation versus having a more correlated product to your business. So we've gone down the path of, I think, making a better fit for your business, hence the Taiwan and the Indian scrap contracts. And as an exchange, we spend a lot of effort and time engaging with customers and getting the industry ready for a new contract. So we don't launch contracts lightly. We are very mindful and cognizant that it serves a physical market need. I guess the key is for users of futures contracts to correlate the physical exposures to find the most appropriate futures contract for them. So that's what I would leave the audience with.